There exist vast differences between previous versions of ActionScript and ActionScript 3. Differences to the point that they're almost two completely separate programming languages. Here, we will examine the history of the language and some milestones along that path. So let's start with actions. They were introduced in 1999 with Flash Player 4. These actions are accessible through what's known as the Actions panel. And basically, you had very little control over how things worked. It was sort of like a Mad Libs approach to coding, where you would basically select an action and fill in the blanks. It included basic timeline commands, such as stop, play, go to and play, go to and stop, things of that nature. It was heavily focused on animation. At this time in its life, Flash Player and the Flash design environment were really used specifically for animation. So then we had ActionScript. And with the introduction of ActionScript 2 and 3, this first version of ActionScript is now known as ActionScript 1. This was introduced in the year 2000 with Flash Player 5. It expanded the concept of actions into a full language. It's based on ECMA 262, the third edition. So this is very similar to the edition that other dialects of ECMA, such as JavaScript, are based on. Important to note here that ActionScript 1 is a loosely typed language. So if you were to create a variable, you could assign any sort of data to that variable. It didn't have to be constrained to a number or a string or anything like that. You could just assign anything to it and switch those as you go through your program. 2003 saw the introduction of ActionScript 2. This was introduced along with Flash Player 7, and it allowed for concepts such as classes and inheritance, familiar to those coming from an object-oriented programming background. It was based on the ECMAScript 4th edition draft, although it actually compiled down to ActionScript 1 bytecode. So really, under the covers, there was no true difference between ActionScript 1 and ActionScript 2. 2006 saw the introduction of ActionScript 3, which is what we use today. It was introduced along with Flash Player 9, and it utilizes an entirely new ActionScript virtual machine. AVM1, which is for ActionScript 1 and 2, and AVM2 both exist within Flash Player. It's based on the ECMAScript 4th edition draft, which is now defunct. It's important to note that with ActionScript 3, the language was entirely rewritten. So, along the way to ActionScript 3, with each new iteration of Flash Player in additions to the language, you would have all sorts of different ways of doing very similar things, and really the language was becoming quite a mess. This rewrite organized everything and standardized the way things would be done in the future. So the future of ActionScript. As mentioned, ActionScript 3 is what we use today, and it's still going quite strong. With each new Flash Player release, there's usually expansions to the ActionScript language. So these can usually be accessed through the Adobe Live Docs, which document all the classes, packages, methods, and properties of the core ActionScript language. We recently saw the introduction of Flash Player 11. Flash Player 11 includes such new classes as Stage 3D, Stage Video, Stage Text, and other expanded APIs. The future of ActionScript includes concepts such as concurrency, telemetry, and things of that nature. So in this lesson, we've had a look at the history and evolution of ActionScript from its very beginnings to what it's become today. a robust modern programming language.